everyone. Welcome to the ComiXology Originals interview series for Amazon's Virtual Con. My name is Kiwi, and I work at ComiXology, a cloud-based digital comic service with a huge library of comics, graphic novels, and manga. Today, I'm here with writer Jeremy Holt and artist Elizabeth Beals, part of the creative team behind the recently released ComiXology Originals graphic novel, Virtually Yours. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
How has quarantine been treating you?
Not well. I don't think it's treating anybody really well, but I was quarantined with an ex-girlfriend for about 3 months.
Oh, wow. How was that? Not great.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I'm now in a new apartment, so it's all very new and strange.
Wow. Have you taken up any passion projects or hobbies or anything?
Writing comics is basically it. I've got doing tech support, so I basically have been leaning pretty hard into just getting back to the work of creating.
Yeah. What about you, Elizabeth?
Quarantine-wise, not very different from me. I work from home anyway, so it's just I pretty much am on the lighter side of that. I just go out fewer, grocery shopping and stuff like that, and then just art occupies my time, so it's hasn't really changed all too much for me, just frequency of going out.
Right. So let's get right to why we're here. Obviously, Virtually Yours, which takes place in New York City, which we were talking about, and focuses on dating and life in the 21st century. So how did this idea come to fruition? Is it based on any personal real life experiences that you've had?
Let's see. The idea stemmed from the idea of dating apps. I had been on quite a few. So just kind of the experience of dating virtually, but I wanted to kind of focus on a rom-com that isn't solely hinging on the fact that the two main characters are in love or are falling in love. Because I think there's so much more to talk about love that isn't the, nice romantic period, where everything's great and perfect. It's not always that way. So I wanted to kind of take the story in a different direction.
And how did you assemble the creative team? This is always a question I love to ask because I think it's so fascinating how everyone gets to meet and team up.
Yeah, Elizabeth and I met, she had to remind me of this, at Heroes Con 2013, because I really have no memory. I just recall, when you work with artists and writers and you make friends with all these people, you tend to kind of run into the same circles. And, for me anyway, writers talk about which artists are working on what, who's available, who's not. So I have a close group of writer friends who were all swapping names. And Elizabeth just happened to be available when I was pitching this to another publisher at the time, which was in 2014, I think. And that's kind of how it all started.
Elizabeth, what did you love about the script when you initially read it, or how much did you know about the project?
Oh man. Well, when Jeremy approached me initially, way back when, I just loved the idea of doing a rom-com. It was something I hadn't really approached or done in my work. I like doing lovey-dovey stuff and everything, but I liked the approach that Jeremy was going with, that these people don't necessarily have to end up together. It could be more about love and your friendship or other type of things like that. And I loved that it was going in that direction instead. So yeah.
The rest is history. What does the workflow look like for, is the script first and then, you panel out each page, or how does that work? How do you guys work together?
Scripts are definitely first. I embed a lot of reference images, specifically because this story was set in New York City and because I was resurrecting old haunts of mine like Beauty Bar and Park Slope, Bergen Street Comics, Museum of Natural History. I needed to provide, I wanted to take a lot of the guesswork out for Elizabeth. So my scripts are pretty dense with reference images. But it's a pretty standard comic book script, like page 1, 5 panels, panel descriptions, dialogue, stuff like that. And and then she just runs with it. And when I've said this before, that artists bring, comic book scripts to life, she really does it in a way that I'm really excited for people to see her interior work, because she doesn't leave any detail untouched.
That's for sure true. That's actually what I was wanted to talk about next is what I loved so much about it was just the depth in which and the care you took to develop each of the characters. And that is going from just the way they speak to each other, like their body language, what they're wearing, like their choices basically every day when they wake up. It's like that. I think that's you both did a great job doing that. How did you, I guess, accomplish that? Like, how tricky is it to like mold each person separately and then also make them interact together cohesively?
Well, I just want to say before Elizabeth dives into this is that I gave no directions on fashion, on clothes, because
Okay.
I barely can dress myself in the morning. So the fact that she was dressing multiple characters over a long period of time just blows my mind. So Elizabeth, please share your knowledge.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, Jeremy did so good with like, we both brainstormed in the beginning about like who our inspiration was, definitely for like the characters and our main characters and everything. And so once we hit that, and then Jeremy did make a little lookbook for like Max and stuff. So
That's true.
Credit, come on. And so like it definitely, he set me on the right track. He built these wonderful characters, and just by reading into it and kind of just seeing where he's taking them, it was really easy just to kind of like, okay, well, this is how they would go. And so I would just peruse like endless fashion websites and everything, and be like, what's in style now? And like, okay, I like that ensemble. And then I would just put it together and like save it. I have like tons of reference folders just for like, okay, this is for character A, character B, character C, and then like also going through the different seasons. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to look at coats next and everything like that, and then different environments. So I have a lot of fun with it. I love just looking at fashion. I don't think I'm very fashionable, but I just love fashion in general. So it was a dream to be able to
your
do that.
Hard work definitely shows through, because I think that's one of the things that struck me pretty much right away. It was just the way you captured New York, obviously like not the grungy part we know, but like New York in the realm of like a romantic comedy, where it is a bit more romanticized than perhaps reality would show. But you did a fantastic job. It's really great. And Jeremy, you were in the book, which
that was
awesome. I was like, what?
It was very
How was
random.
that?
It happened so like I knew I wanted to feature the story pretty heavily at Bergen Street Comics, because I missed that place. I miss Tom and Amy who ran it. I miss Tucker who was behind the counter. I miss the events they threw, the community they built. So I wanted to really feature it as a prominent location. So it only made sense to feature, a release party, which I'd been to dozens of during their tenure. So I didn't really know who it was going to be about, and then I just thought, hey, wouldn't this be fun to plug my first comic I ever did? So it just kind of worked out that way.
Very cool. So obviously, unfortunately, we don't really get to see a lot of underrepresented characters in comic books, but there are quite a few in this. Why is it important to just make sure we see representation in comics, or really anything else as far as like race, sexuality, identity?
I think with rom-coms, it's a fun place to kind of explore all of that. There are some tropes I needed to kind of adhere to, but the original story that Elizabeth and I worked on featured 2 white characters, and it was a 40-page story. And this was 2014, so around 2017, I had decided to just stop writing white male protagonists specifically, because that's really what I was writing a lot about. And I realized I wanted to kind of tell my own story, my own personal truths. And I was really excited that Elizabeth was on board for that. And her ability to draw anybody really helped. Because I think some artists kind of draw the same faces a lot of the time.
Right.
Her versatility is like unmatched. Again, I can't wait for people to read this book.
It really is incredible. So beyond that, of course, there are some like, you know, heavier themes as far, you know, like abuse comes up in the book. Why, what made you guys want to shine a light on something that was like super real like that, like in the midst of like sort of, you know, what we would traditionally think as like a romantic comedy?
God, I feel like I'm talking most of this, but
Do it.
I decided to write that because I wanted to feature a different side of a love story, and
Mm-hmm.
I was pulling from my own personal experiences. I had gotten out of a physically and emotionally abusive marriage that was about 3 years long, and you know, at the time I identify as male. I now identify as non-binary, but at the time, it was something that I just thought was normal, and I normalized it, and it was very hard to talk about as a
Yeah.
male because, you know, there's all this weird stigma and stereotypes.
Right.
But I wanted to show that abuse can come in all forms, and you know, I know it was a gamble because, you know, people want an escape, but again, it was kind of leaning into my personal truths and writing about something that I know people go through. And
Absolutely.
you know, Elizabeth handled it with great care because, you know, it was kind of surreal to see it on the page, but she did it in a really nice way.
So pivoting a little bit back to setting, why New York City for this? Is it because it's like horrifying to date here, or because you you have had experience, obviously, and maybe the same
Dating,
some of the same things?
I mean, dating in general is pretty horrific, to be honest.
Yes, no, you're right.
When I met said ex-wife, I actually went on 31st dates in about 6 weeks. And New York City
Wow.
is the type of place that can facilitate that.
Correct.
And I lived there 5 years. I have a lot of fond memories there. And I kind of wanted to just go back and live there for a while I wrote the story.
Yeah.
And kind of live vicariously through these characters. And again, I mean, you know, what makes a rom-com for me, especially in a comic book form, is detail with clothing, because it's got to be contemporary. The
Right.
locations, details to backgrounds. I know some artists just don't like drawing backgrounds, or cars, or lots of people. Like,
Right.
Elizabeth has this crowd scene in Bergen Street Comics, and I look at it a lot. Like, I think it was my phone screensaver for a while. But all of that, what it does is it grounds the reader in this
Yes.
experience, and it's whimsical in a lot of ways based on her style alone.
Right. Yeah, and that's sort of leads into my next question about Elizabeth, your ability to like really capture the essence of the city, which is obviously not the easiest task because people have like this kind of like idea of like, or even their own experience of like how it makes them feel or whatever. But I think you did a really great job. So what, like, how did you do research? How did you get it to like to this right way? Like,
Oh yeah, it was tons of research. I've only been to New York once, and it was
okay.
a few years ago, and so it was, I think it was like, it was right after we had started talking. So I took a few reference photos while I was there, not really thinking of anything. And then Jeremy's great with just, like he's saying, like a lot of references up front, like in the script. If he's like, this is where it's going to be, he's going to give you links to like every single type of angle that you could get to it. And that just helped so much, especially since I hadn't been to a few of these places. So it was just like, I needed those references. But yeah, just getting the references, like, even if it's going into like street view and like just going down the street and it's like, I need to find this exact spot. So I'm going to keep going down the street. And then it's like, okay, I'll pivot here. And it's like, okay, this is perfect. And then it's just like, then I just save everything. But it's just lots of research and just looking at those little details that are going to make it just right. And like, if something's a little older or if it's a business that had closed, it's like, okay, well, how can I bring this up to date? It closed like a few years ago. What's going on right now? How can I kind of inject that so that it's current? So
yeah, she had even Elizabeth sent me a map of Max's neighborhood, and she showed me like a walking tour what Max would do, and I was just like, what? This is amazing.
I was like, this is the subway he takes, right? I was like, okay, so he's gonna be on this street, so I gotta draw these businesses. And I was just like, looking back at it now, I was just like, that's kind of crazy, but it worked.
Yeah, paid off.
It really did. It's just, you know, it just brings such a sense of like realness to the entire thing, which is, I think, will be super appreciated for sure. And then I have one more question for you guys, because I think we could probably all agree that we love rom-coms. What are your favorite rom-coms of all time?
Ooh. Ooh.
You got one?
All of them.
They're all very good. Yeah, there's not one sticking out in my head. That's a tough question. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I love all of the Jennifer Lopez ones.
Yes. Actually, J-Lo was like kind of, to me, for Ava's character was definitely an inspiration because she's, you know, Ava's from the Bronx. And
yeah.
but I mean, I like all the classics, like anything by Nora Ephron, anything by Nancy Meyers, but particularly Jennifer Caden Robinson's Netflix original film called Someone Great that came out last year, maybe. That was a huge influence on me regarding the story because she essentially takes a rom-com, takes all the influences she loves, which are the same ones I love, and she tells the idea of a story where what is this rom-com about when two people aren't falling in love, but rather falling out of love. And it's about love for your friends. It's about New York City, and it's about music. And music in this story is a form of time travel for her, which I love because I wrote a comic book about music as time travel. But it's very true. Like you hear a song and it transports you back to whether it's a good moment or a bad moment in your relationship.
Right.
And the city can do that. Specific businesses, landmarks, locations also, you know, trigger us. And I just thought it was such a smart movie, and she did it in the way she wanted to, which was great.
Do you have any favorites, Elizabeth?
I'm honestly at a blank right now. Oh, there's just
I also love Reese Witherspoon.
Yes.
So like Sweet Home Alabama was always one of my favorites.
Or like Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, classic.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good.
Like You've Got Mail definitely, you know, was in the back of my head when I was writing it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, definitely. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us and for chatting about Virtually Yours, which is on sale now on ComiXology. If you're a Kindle Unlimited, Amazon Prime, or ComiXology Unlimited member, you can read it for free. And don't forget to check out the rest of the events for Amazon's Virtual Con on the website, and they will be extending throughout the weekend. Thank you and take care.